Hello, sunshine. Welcome to Be Visible with Veronica, the podcast where bold conversations and soul-aligned strategy help you awaken your most powerful self. I'm your host, Veronica Bond. Get ready to stop dimming your light, own your magic, and finally be so visible you can't be ignored. Let's get visible. Hello, sunshine. Welcome back to Be Visible with Veronica. Last week's episode with Chef Nikki, Asian Mint, oh my gosh. Not only do you need to check out her cookbook, but you need to understand what it's been like for her to grow 5 chains, amazing restaurants in the Dallas area, and what that conversation was all about. 22 years, 7 figures, building an empire. Today's episode with Jennifer Sheets will inspire you because there was a moment she had to go all in. And for those of you who remember Indiana Jones, when he had to close his eyes and take that step and trust that there would be something for him to land on, that reminds me of today's episode with Jennifer. Jennifer, welcome to Be Visible with Veronica.
Thanks so much, Veronica. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So we were talking about a couple different things that put you on the path. One of the stories you shared with me, Jennifer, and the name of your company, your New Path Executive Support, it's a global company, started with you first being involved in a law firm.
Yes, it actually came about toward the end of my time with the law firm. I was looking for something new to be doing, and that is part of the root of the name of my business, New Path Executive Support. So
how's that new path been for you?
It's been winding, as all good paths are. When I was a child, we were given a poem. It's a familiar poem, though I can't think of the author right now, talking about the road less traveled. And our teacher was telling us about it, and like, would you choose the beaten path or the one that looked like it hadn't really been worn? And when I turned in my assignment, I said I would just cut a whole new path through the woods. And I had forgotten about that for a long time, but I was just talking to my mom about it like last month. And I guess this has always just kind of been my destiny to just make up something new that works for me.
But I also love, when I heard that name for you and we were talking about business, I was looking for a new path. And so for me, it's a dual meaning. So it means something very specific to you, but also for clients. So there is something in a name that's powerful, that when you're naming your business, you never know where it might take you, but how it lands for somebody else as well.
Yeah.
One of the things you shared with me in our pre-interview, and it was just short, most people don't know this, but when I bring guests into the studio, we are not having this whole pre-production conversation. They don't get a Q&A beforehand. In fact, most of the time, I'm letting them know where the address is the day they're supposed to be in the studio. No, that's an exaggeration, but in Jennifer's case, it's true today. I love it. But one of the things she shared in that conversation was this mental breakdown that you could feel was coming. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah. I had been working in a small law firm for a few years. I was part of the team that established that law firm. We exited a larger group and opened up our own law firm. And as time was going by and some things were shifting in the business, and I was becoming, I had a higher position in the firm, but that also meant a lot more responsibility, and I wasn't really fulfilled with what I was doing. It was very stressful. And I felt like I was getting to a breaking point where I wasn't fulfilled with the work that I was doing, and it was so heavy and so stressful and so much demand that I felt like I was just going to have a mental breakdown. My blood pressure was dangerously high, and I think I actually had an anxiety attack in choir, of all places, one night, and I just decided that I needed to do something different. I had no idea what that was going to be.
And so many people wait for the plan or the path to show up before they take that leap of faith, before they trust that the ledge will be there for them and catch them.
Yeah.
When they're ready to take. For you, it wasn't necessarily a leap, it was more just a step. And you had to
Yeah.
probably really trust yourself that everything was going to be okay, but also trust a higher power for you that needed to answer that call. And what I love about this is there's so many women listening who experience that anxiety and breaking point, and the medical incident is what causes them to make a shift.
Yeah.
And you caught it before that got serious.
Yes. I am so grateful to myself for doing the thing that was so scary and just stepping out completely into the dark, not knowing what was there, what was going to show up for me. But I knew that where I was a dangerous, unsafe, not that the people that I was working with were dangerous or unsafe. It was the pressure and the stress level and this constant denial of what I felt like I really could or should be doing with my life and my time. And so I knew that I was in a place where it was not a good time for me to make a decision about what I wanted to do next, because I was going to be coming from that place of fear and stress and anxiety. And I had fortunately created a space for myself where I could just walk away for a couple of months without having to have income coming in. I know that's not the case for everybody, but that's the position that I was in at the time. And I decided that I was just going to leave with no plan, and then just open my heart and my mind and see what showed up that felt right.
Was there any background in your life, Jennifer, that taught you or had muscle memory around taking that kind of step or having that kind of faith or belief that you could maybe look back on to say, this is something I did as a child, and then I would come to the other side of it with a learning experience, or was this new for you?
Well, it was new in a lot of ways, in that I was now 100% responsible for myself. Make it or break it. It was all up to me. As a child, we moved around a lot, so I was constantly in new schools and making new groups of friends and having to learn how to shift and adapt in that way. As a young adult in my mid-20s, I was in a marriage that I knew was not the right fit for me, and I knew that I wanted to leave that marriage. But I had never been independent. I had never been wholly responsible for keeping a roof over my head and paying for my car and all of those things. But I also knew that where I was not where I wanted to be, and I had to choose. I had to choose to take that leap or stay where I was. And, I took a while to make that decision. But ultimately I did, and that was one of those lessons that taught me there is a way forward, and if I can just trust and do what I know feels like the right movement for me, the universe, as I refer to that higher power, is gonna catch me, even if it seems terrifying and like a blind leap of faith, really. Wow.
Did you, at that point, were you doing anything with journaling or personal development or reading things, or was there anything foundational that you could fall back on and turn to? I know you have a beautiful voice, and you just said you're in choir.
Yes.
And you have a great big opportunity that just came to you today, so I want to celebrate that. But was there something that could help you not spiral?
When I decided to have the divorce, there wasn't really anything like that in my life. I didn't really have a strong support system to fall back on. I had a lot of great friends, but really and truly I was just on my own. And when I decided to leave the law firm, I had been taking some personal and professional development classes, and I had some experience with goal setting and vision boards and that type of work, and taking personal responsibility for the situations that I find myself in financially and career-wise. So I know that I called on a lot of those lessons that I learned from those types of trainings.
Sure. life skills that muscles that got developed that maybe you didn't know were going to peak out and need strengthening.
And to tell my family, you know, like, I'm leaving my career with this law firm. Oh, great. What are you going to do? I have no idea.
Are you crazy?
Exactly.
How are you going to pay your bills? You're not moving back in with us.
Well, you know, and both of my parents are fantastic, and I love them. And at that point in my life, there wouldn't have been anywhere for me to go back to anyway.
Oh, wow.
Just because of things that were happening in all of our lives. So really, it was just
it was just you taking that step forward.
Yeah.
So 6 years you had your company?
2016 is when I actually started doing this.
10 years.
Full time. I left the law firm, took a couple months off, and that's when I started doing this business.
So you go to a temporary agency you shared before we came on today.
Yeah.
And you said, no, don't put me in what my skill set says my resume is telling me. I need to do something where I'm not having to think.
Yeah. I need something that does not require a whole lot of responsibility, that is not a long-term commitment, that doesn't take up my whole day. I just want a little something to get me out of the house, bring in a little bit of cash so that I'm not going through my whole savings while I'm figuring out what I want to do.
So the first call that came to you that started you on your new path, how did people know did they just know you weren't working? Do you think they were needing a skill set? Was it in a conversation where you're looking but you weren't sure? How did that happen that made you go, where the bells and lights went ding, ding, ding?
Well, there weren't bells and lights yet. However, that conversation basically went like this. There's a woman who is a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Pat. And she was running a business. She was already successful in her business, but she was at a growth point where she needed some additional support so that she could continue moving forward in the growth of her business.
Okay.
And she knew that I wasn't working, and she just called me up and said, could you help me out a couple hours a week? I'd be happy to pay you. And I said, okay. And then a mentor and colleague of hers, who, again, already had a successful business, his assistant was leaving to take another opportunity, and he was kind of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to even look for help. And she said, well, why don't you call Jennifer? So I started working for him, and I'm still with both of them.
10 years later.
10 years later.
Wow, the power of that. We just had a conversation earlier with the owner of Podworks here, who we were just talking about who, not how. Like, sometimes that's the most magical thing there is, the who, not how piece. And that is you. It is so much about who you know. I mean, when my husband was looking after a 17-year career, it was somebody who knew he was looking.
Yeah.
And ended up in an industry that he did not know that he was going to be in. But he said yes to. So that who, not how, that's pretty powerful.
I also am reminded of a quote that Susie Pruden shared at a recent event where she said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Because that's what happened.
Right.
He didn't know me, but my friend Pat knew me, and she told him.
Well, you know we got to go here. Let's talk about visibility. Because come on, that is such a powerful, anybody who knows me knows I'm a CVO, the Chief Visibility Officer, and I have the visibility quiz that people can go, visibilityquiz.com, shameless plug. But so it's so much about putting yourself out there in lots of different places. And I love what you said about, I couldn't just stay on the couch. I had to get up and get out of my house. And that getting up and getting out of the house, even though you said it was a mindless activity, put you now here 10 years later. So for those entrepreneurs that are listening, and the women out there that are listening to this, or the men that are listening wanting to support the woman who is struggling and not happy and frustrated but doing the thing because it's paying the bills, there's something to be said about taking a really deep breath and a step back and then allowing yourself to go, okay, what's the next move? And maybe it just means not showing up here anymore.
Yeah. And
I think that conversation, and this is one of the reasons why I was inspired to bring you into the studio today, is we're in Q2. And I've already had a number of conversations in the last couple of weeks with women saying, my Q1 didn't go the way I had planned. My income's not where it should be. Or quite frankly, Veronica, it's shit. Like, ugh, I don't love where I'm at, and I don't know what to do different.
Yeah.
And I need to take a pause. And they just, I find, and I've done this, where you pull back so much that you're in the dark.
Yeah.
And then you stay there too long. And I wanted this conversation to be an inspirational conversation of find something to do. And what I love that you wanted to do is really just be in service of somebody else.
Yeah.
To take your mind off of what might happen next, and then trusting your skill set just to let that unfold. So you start your business, and I love that it was just, I just kept walking forward. Okay. Well, now you have I would call an extremely successful business in what you do, and how you support, and you have a team member working with you. You might have more than one. And the fact that people stayed with, and it's a testament to your growing company. I have people I've worked with now for 10 years.
Yeah. Pat actually was at a networking group talking to somebody else about, they were looking for some sort of assistant. Now they're in Tennessee and they want somebody local. However, as in their conversation, Pat was saying, oh yeah, my assistant's been with me for almost 11 years. And they were like, what? Nobody has a virtual assistant for 11 years. She's like, oh, I didn't know, because that's not been our experience working together. You know?
I love that. So what are some of the things that you do for your clients that let me even rephrase that. I'm going to add a piece that lights you up?
Oh, great. I love it. Okay. So one of the things that I love about having my own business is that I get to choose whose work I'm supporting.
Look at that.
You know, I had to learn that in the beginning. It was scary to turn down what looked like an opportunity, but I later realized it just was not the fit for me. And that's okay. They're going to find that person, and I'm going to find my people. So, little nugget there for you.
No, but I love that pro tip, because so many people at the beginning, when they are either replacing an income or needing to, they make a lot of rash, quick decisions because they need to put money in the bank account. Yeah. Instead of just thank you, and realize those are blessings, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. Being on the support side doesn't always mean we have to take everything. We always have to say yes. And it's important that we don't, because what I love about the clients that I support is the work they're doing. They are doing work that I think is really important and that I think the world needs. And even though I'm not the one up on the stage, or I'm not the one writing the book, I'm not the one hosting the podcast, I get to be part of that mission in a way that helps it move forward even faster and deeper. And so the question was, what really lights me up about the business that I do? Because I have so much experience with customer service and one-on-one interaction with people, I love getting to interact with the clients of my clients. And, you know, the two folks I mentioned earlier, I have a third client that I've also worked with for going on 10 years now. And her people know me. We have a connection. They know they can trust me. They know they can come to me if they need something. And that also takes some of that time and weight off of the clients that I'm supporting, because they're not answering every question that comes in. They're not managing their schedules. They're not, you know, making sure that their clients have the assets, recordings of calls or worksheets that they need to do. And those people, I get to build a relationship with them. And I get to hear about the work they're doing.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just sort of this butterfly effect of ripples just going out, and I get to be part of that process. That's what I love.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I think that when we get into, every entrepreneur that I've ever met had a challenge they were going through, and they became the solution for themselves. and then they mirrored the clients that they were looking for, and then it just kept developing. And sometimes you just say yes. And that brings me to what you shared with me today of somebody coming to you and asking you to sing a cappella at a graduation ceremony. And you're like, you don't really okay. And now you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I asked you, did you ever have singing at a Coliseum on your vision board? You're like, no, I don't think I have, because you don't know how things are going to show up next, right? How does that feel right now to have this looming on the horizon, this other part of what you do?
Yes. Well, it's exciting. It's intimidating. And those things don't cancel each other out. Like it's both at the same time.
Both
and. Yeah, it's very alive feeling. You know, it's that electricity that runs through. And I've had some moments in my life where I have turned down opportunities, and then I look back at them, I'm like, oh, I should have done that. And I'm done doing that.
I love it.
I'm done passing up things because I don't think I'm enough, or I don't think I'm good enough, or, you know, who do I think I am?
Why do women talk to themselves like that?
I don't really know. I mean, I could give you an answer, and I think that it's in my family history. Some of it's been, you know, people telling children that, you know, things that are negative about them, and we absorb those ideas. And but
same thing happens to young boys, but they don't tend to grow up to be men that are always making excuses for themselves, saying sorry all the time, shorting themselves in income or success or presence or voice. You just don't seem to see that happening. And I think that's also what affects the statistic of, out of all the $1 million earners, women in America are only making up like 1.7% of those total in the gross annual revenue space. And that's, we do so much so well, that surprises me. But every single time I have a conversation with a woman entrepreneur and I say, you should double your price, or your value is more, or they're just so nervous. And I'll never forget the conversation my husband had with me the end of 2025, and I was sharing some successes with him, and he said, it's about time you recognize that your ceiling is now your new floor.
I love that. I heard you say that at the Elevate and Empower event, and it just stuck with me. It was so powerful. And yeah, you're right. We need more of that as a culture and as a planet. You know?
Yes. 8 billion of us need more of that.
Yeah.
And our children need more of that. The babies that are born need more of that. Like, we need more of that love and humanity for each other. And I actually heard something really interesting over the weekend. So, you know, when you're listening to a podcast, and yes, I listen to my own, as you should too, if you have one. But when you're listening to a podcast, I mean, when you're, yes, on YouTube, it will often channel you into the next one. And I have a tendency to fall asleep to them sometimes because we have a TV in the I know we shouldn't have a TV in the master bedroom, but 37 years later, it's okay to have a TV in the master. And we'll turn it off. We definitely admit we sleep better. So if I need just some kind of noise in the background, I will often play a podcast. So I fell asleep. I didn't hear it, but then I hear this really soft voice coming through. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, my phone, my ear plug thing fell out, and it was Ivanka Trump. Ivanka, is that Donald Trump's daughter? Not Ivana, Ivanka. Ivana Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going with Ivanka.
I think it's Ivanka.
Okay. She's on it, and it's the Diary of a CEO. I know, shameless plug to you. It's a great podcast. But she said something really impactful. She said, I always come from a place of love. I'm like, yes, me too. And I want to create that intentionality in everything I do. And she has 3 children, been married for a while, and I mean, happily married. And what she was saying is, I'm so intentional about my focus, my goal, my wanting to be in abundance. This is me paraphrasing, but my love for my family, for myself, for what I'm doing. She started a nonprofit for not letting food go to waste after she went through the first presidency, and she gave up an $800 million business that was selling to Nordstrom's and to do all this stuff. And she said that haters will be haters. People will be there to pull you down. And she said, and that's okay. I love them anyway. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they get access. Mm-hmm. And I'm so intentional with who I'm being and what I'm representing for my children, that I don't give any energy to that small voice. And so now I'm adding my own thought. I'm thinking, yes, you don't give energy to the small voice, the scarcity mindset. And I think if women can operate from that space, knowing their heart and trusting the guidance in alignment, the aha or the and for me it's always in my heart, it's not in my gut. And I just love that came up for me on the Diary of a CEO. And because I'm a CEO, you're a CEO. If you're the founder of a company, you're the CEO of that company. But just that pure intentionality from a woman who grew up in a way that most won't experience, and then had the life and the style. And she talked about her grandma, and it was beautiful, and how her grandma loved her so much, and she knew that, and how her mother loved her so much, and how just having that deep female connection. And I think we can, if we don't have that in our circle of family, find it in your circle of friends.
Yeah. Women are so powerful and so just lovely. The way that it is becoming more commonplace to find circles of women who are in support of each other. You know, I remember hearing people talk about, like, oh, women, you can't trust other women, saying you can't trust other women, and that everybody's backs. That's never been my experience. I don't really, I don't understand where that's coming from for them. And I hope that they can find this world that I've found myself in, where I'm just surrounded by powerful, loving, creative, visionary women who just want to help other women.
Lift them as they
Yes, have that experience as well.
Not step on the bodies of others to get to where they're going. Which there is a population out there that does that. But as an entrepreneur growing, I think one of the things that for me, why I started this podcast, and people can go back and listen to those initial stories and those first ones, as we're almost coming up on a year now, but it was so much to create a platform for women, to show that women can be in collaboration, in support, in love with the process of moving each other forward. Be so intentional that the negative voices and the scarcity mindset, just even if it comes in, it can bounce off. We can put a shield up, or we can put, be a duck. I used to have people tell me that all the time. Just be a duck. Let it
the
fall off.
Just rolls off your feathers.
I'm like, I don't know how to be a duck. It absorbs. And I have to learn how to be that woman. And I think we're all born with certain strengths and proclivities to do certain things, and astrologically and I Ching and human design and all of these ways we show up. But really figure out what leaning into that strength is, and then supporting each other to do it along the way. And I love that you do that in your supportive role of New Path Executive. Support is so important in how you started that business. And I love that you're the CEO and founder of your badass company, Jennifer.
Me too. I love that as well.
Oh my gosh. So as you're growing your business, so many people talk about scaling. Mm-hmm. And so as we're ending here, you're one person, but do you have a team member?
Yes.
And so it's allowed you to scale.
Yes.
And grow and reach bigger heights.
Yes.
What's your goal for the end of this year?
For the end of this year, I would like to be able to fill up the time of my current team member, Nancy, who's fabulous, and be at a place where we can bring on another person onto the team so that then we can add a few more clients to our portfolio. I don't want to grow too fast. It's really important to me that we're providing quality support with integrity and that everybody on the team is doing what they like to do. I think that's really important, that you're not, always having to take on the tasks that are just kind of not in your genius zone or not something you enjoy. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'd like to bring on another team member and be able to start reaching out to bring in new clients as well.
And Jennifer, people listening or following and who want to look at the show notes, how do they reach you and learn more about your company?
You can reach us. My direct email address is jennifer@newpathexecutivesupport.biz.
.biz?
Yes. Believe it or not, newpathexecutivesupport.com was already taken at the time. What? I looked them up, though. We're not in conflict. They're not even in the state.
Okay, .biz it is.
Yes, .biz.
And then I'll put that in the show notes so people can find and look and learn more about you as well.
Great.
So your magic wand, you've added team members. You're so good at what you do in your supportive role, and you've got that checkbox. And my last question is for you. Being excited personally in your beautiful hobby, leaning into your great gift of being a vocalist, what's that goal look like?
To have studio time recorded for my second album.
And you have a first album.
I have a first album. It's all covers.
Wow.
But there's songs that were pivotal in my music journey in one way or another.
Okay.
And it's on all of the streaming platforms. It's called So Far. Jennifer Ann Sheets. You can find it there.
Okay.
And I've started working with a singer-songwriter who's doing some coaching with me on writing some original music. And I'm excited to get that out there.
So what's the goal for the second album then? That's all you.
It's not going to be all me because there's still some covers that I just deeply love that I would love to experience and make my own as well. Okay. But I'd like to have at least a handful of them. I'm going to say 4 originals on that one.
So what's the launch date for that? What's the goal? I'm holding your feet to the fire.
Oh my gosh, I know.
You got to give me a timeline.
Based on what I learned with the last one.
Which gives you a higher platform to be stepping forward on, let's just say.
Yes. I'm going to say Christmas 2027.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all heard it.
Music in hand.
Right here. Christmas 2027. Jennifer's new album.
They make great gifts.
That's awesome. I love it. So good. Okay, well, this has been lovely. Thank you for sharing your story and for inspiring other women who are listening, who are at a corporate job or feeling like their health is really being affected by all the work. And there's something I want to say to business owners. They're business owners, they're founders. As they're bringing on employees or they're looking to grow their team and they've been solo for a while or they have 200 people, recognize that your employees are buying into your dream. It's not always just a job for them. Sometimes it is. I know that. But when you're growing that team from scratch and you're multiplying yourself, share your vision so your team can buy into it. Absolutely. And then put them in their strengths.
Yes.
Find your volunteers on your nonprofit, put them in their strengths. When I found my leadership team the second time around for eWomen Network, because I make shifts, one of the questions I asked them is, what do you love to do? And I didn't do that the first time around because it was what I was looking for. And there's so much power and growth and magic that happens in that space. So I love that you said that.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of talk right now about AI, yes or no, offshore assistance, yes or no, local, yes or no. I think a marriage of all of those things is really the most powerful thing. Use the tools at your disposal. And you don't have to put everything in one basket. You can weave these pieces together to make a really good support and safety net for yourself.
And don't be afraid to split somebody's task into 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah. Yes. And
because I think you will be surprised on how that will grow your company.
Yes. And I like what you said about, people on your team having the opportunity to buy into your vision. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that you focus on building a team where people want to buy in, because then they're going to stay with you. I mean, I've been with my clients for almost 11 years because I have bought into their dream. And we have built a great team, and we've built a culture in their individual businesses that is more powerful than if they were just doing a job and I'm just doing a job.
I love that. So we're going to wrap on that.
Great.
I think that's great. What a conversation. And I had 5 more ideas I wanted to ask you about as we're coming to the end here. But that's for another day and another drive time and another listening episode. So if you love what you're hearing, one of the things that has come up, if people have said, I've subscribed, Veronica, we're listening. We have over 200 on YouTube. We've reached 29 countries, 130 something cities, and almost 50,000 views. So many things are happening for this in almost a year. I'm so proud of it. But you might not truly be subscribed. So make sure you hit that little bell on YouTube in the corner and get the notifications. Comment, share with others who need to hear this, and help us to spread this message for entrepreneurs all around the world so they can continue to feel part of a community and feel lifted up and heard, even if they're just listening to somebody else inspiring them, because it will inspire a spark within you, within them, and you don't know who you share it with, that it can change the world. So one listen, one download at a time, one conversation at a time. So Jennifer, thank you for being with us today, and people will find out more about you on the show notes. Great. And I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been really a fun experience.
You're welcome. So bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Be Visible with Veronica. If today's episode sparked something in you, share it, tag me, and pass it on. Your presence has power, and the world is better when you let it be seen. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up as the unstoppable force you were born to be. I'll see you next time.